Hello, thank you very much for coming to this talk. My name is Sukie Kang. I'm a SAFE SBCT. I'm also an Agile coach, a transformation consultant, and a accredited trainer of public and private courses. So over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show why I believe, and increasingly many organizations believe, traditional budgeting and Agile don't mix. This talk itself is going to start with me summarizing the problems that traditional budgeting causes in organizations, some of which I think you will have experienced yourself. And then I'll look at 4 factors that help drive business agility. We'll then circle back to the problem that we're trying to solve, and then we'll look at one solution to that, an approach that's increasingly being used by many organizations. And finally, some further reading in case you wish to dig a bit more deeply into some of the concepts and themes that I discuss. So the traditional budget typically takes organizations around 4 months to put together. And studies show that managers and executives will often spend around 20 to 30% of their time agreeing, negotiating, and finally getting sign off on those budgets. So it's quite an inefficient process. And it's also one that is based on incomplete data. We don't know what the cost of something's going to be. We guesstimate the time. So it's based on this incomplete data. Cost center accounting has a lot of overhead. And many authors and thought leaders, such as Mick Kirsten and Mary Poppendick, have often referred to the cost center trap and why it's detrimental for organizations in today's world. You may have seen, certainly I've experienced a lot of bad behaviors in organizations when it comes to the budget. Sometimes more money is asked for than what's required, or you may get towards the end of the fiscal year and money is being spent because otherwise there's a fear that that money, next year's budget will be reduced. The problem is really compounded when performance measures or performance targets are linked to adherence to a budget. Responsiveness is a core ingredient of business agility, and I'm going to show in a few slides' time why the traditional funding approach can actually impede responsiveness. And we often also see different departments, different business units competing for resources, and that cooperation which is centered on value delivery for customers is often not there. A lot of political infighting between departments as well when it comes to this. And overall, the focus really is on that cost reduction, not on value creation. Sometimes actually neither is achieved. And I'm going to make a big statement now. Project-based funding is incompatible with agility. So in summary, what's wrong with traditional budgeting? Well, traditional budgeting does not reflect the VUCA world that we are living in. VUCA meaning volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So let's move on to 4 factors that help drive business agility. There's many other factors as well, but in this time box, I just wanted to focus on these. So firstly, what do we mean by business agility? Well, one definition that we often use is an organization's ability to compete and thrive in the digital age by responding quickly to the market and delivering innovative solutions to their customers. So, responding quickly and delivering those great solutions. The first area then is feedback. And, early feedback or proactive feedback, it's a core part of Agile. And organizations that, value feedback and respond to that typically do really, really well. And secondly, we have responsiveness. So once we've received that feedback, how quickly can we actually act on it? How quickly can we respond to what we've just learned? Christopher Mayer He is a thought leader, a business leader, and he remarked a number of years ago that most organizations today are engaged in time-based competition. So you're competing with your competitors on a time basis. Customers aren't going to wait for you to get your act together. Therefore, if you combine that with number one, learning quickly, and then number two, acting swiftly. Number three, minimal waste. So Agile, gets it built. DevOps gets it delivered. However, for a lot of organizations, there's a lot of additional non-value adding activity that takes place, waiting for resources, waiting for sign-offs. And all of these things together, start to really impact on value delivery. So the organizations that, are achieving business agility have really pared down the non-value adding activities. Number four, happy, engaged employees. So much research has shown that motivated, happy employees deliver better outcomes for their customers, for their organizations as well. So what is the problem? Firstly, we're going to have to talk about projects. So, with the traditional approach, the traditional funding approach, generally the vehicle that we use for value delivery is the project. And here you have a typical organization comprised of different departments. And I'm going to play an animation now. And what you'll see in this animation is, the budget has been signed off. Every department's got their budget, and now they're about to embark on their projects. But changes occur. Resource constraints, competing priorities. And the net result, not very many people are happy. So often in organizations, demand exceeds capacity. We have slow delivery, partly due to all this context switching that's going on. Competing priorities causes a lot of stress for people, and the end result really is unhappy people, because it's quite a painful way to work and get value delivered. So I mentioned those four factors that help drive business agility. Well, traditional budgeting constrains feedback. And the reason why I say that is because, the initial budget was put together when we didn't have as much information. And if we truly value feedback, which hopefully we do, then often feedback is going to lead to changes. And those changes might impact on the scope, they might impact on the cost, they might impact on the time it's going to take. But with the traditional approach, we really try and prevent those changes to these three factors, to the three factors of the iron triangle. And then we end up with this blame game as well. Why are we behind on that? Why did it cost a little bit more? Feedback itself is hindered by that traditional approach. And as we know with Agile, we are actually fixing cost and time, and we're actually making scope variable. That does not occur when you are working under the project metaphor. Traditional budgets also really hamper our responsiveness. So, we've got changes to our original assumptions, and now those changes need some form of sign-off, a project change request. And also, we also end up with too much work in process as well, and queues are really detrimental to productivity. traditional budgets will lead to higher waste. You know, I'm sure we've all experienced the use it or lose it mentality in organizations. And often, you know, with projects, you know, we don't really pivot when things are going wrong. Projects which are late, we start to put more resources into them. Sometimes we might hire contractors. So now we're increasing our costs as well. And, you know, in some cases, some departments might be spinning up projects which are in no way linked to the strategy of the organization or linked to their to the competitive advantage of the organization. So additional higher waste can result from the traditional approach as well. And finally, in terms of the employees, well, I'm sure you're all aware of Tuckman's team development theory: forming, storming, norming, and performing. Well, with the traditional way of working and the traditional funding approach, which means projects are what we're going to be using as a result, you know, we start a project and then, you know, those members of the project team, some of them may not have worked together before, haven't worked together for a long time. They are going through this cycle. And hopefully at some point during the course of that project, they will get to performing. But then the project will end and then another project will start, sometimes with slightly different people or maybe completely different people. And then they are going through this cycle again. So with the traditional approach, we are forcing people to go through this cycle over and over again. Is there a better way? So what is the solution? All organizations start as a network of individuals. And this network of individuals is focused on the customer, has the speed of decision making, and actually has speed of innovation as well. But as the organization grows, typically, well, more often than not, a hierarchy is created. And, you know, hierarchies actually can have some advantages, such as, you know, efficiency and stability. But the disadvantage, and this is quite crucial for today's world, that they often lose focus on the customer and they lose responsiveness. So instead, what organizations are doing is they are trying to get the benefits of both. So we're not taking away the hierarchy. Instead, we're putting in front of that a value stream network or a set of value stream networks which are focused on the customer. So that's what I mean here in terms of the dual operating system. We keep the hierarchy, but we have value stream networks in front. And by organizing around value, what we end up with is everybody who's required in order to deliver on customer demand for a particular product or set of products arranged in the same value stream. So here you have, for example, people from the business, from marketing, from finance, etc., people from security, from operations, all the people who are required to deliver on customer demand for a particular product or set of products. We arrange those people into a value stream. And now most organizations will typically have multiple value streams, multiple product lines. And now we've got people organized around value, we can instead of funding projects, we can start to allocate funding to those value streams instead. So these are, you know, complex, adaptive, long-lived networks of people who can take a customer request and deliver all the way through to the customer. And you might be thinking, well, how do we set the budgets for these value streams? How do we determine that? That process, one such process which can allocate the funding, it's called participatory budgeting. And participatory budgeting is part of lean budgeting. And that's where all the different epics which are being proposed, we try and reach alignment across the different areas of the business in terms of which ones that we're going to fund and, you know, which value streams those epics are actually going to go to. So if you are interested in participatory budgeting, I'm actually running a workshop tomorrow on that. So it'd be great to see you there. So in this example, we've got 3 value streams, each with a slightly different budget. And the benefit of this approach is, we have these long-lived, stable teams. We have fewer handoffs as a result, because everybody we need, all the skill sets we need, all the knowledge we need to meet a customer request and deliver on that request, we have all those people in the same value stream. We also have less overhead, less waste. We don't need to mess around with cost centers. We don't need to worry about sign-offs for budget, because we're actually funding at the value stream level. A net benefit of all of this is we actually end up with shorter time to market as well. So a summary then of lean budgeting, which is the solution to the problems caused by the traditional decades-old way of working. Firstly, we need to get rid of this project metaphor for delivering value in the 21st century. Times have changed. We live in a much more complex world now, and the project approach really isn't fit for purpose anymore. So fundamentally, the first step is to move away from project to product. And instead of funding projects and having project budgets, we fund value streams instead. Long-lived, complex, adaptive networks of people who have got all the skills and the knowledge required to deliver, build, test, develop, build, test, and deliver on customer requests for a particular product or set of products. How you do this in your own organization, you'll have to kind of, it's hard to kind of give a one-size-fits-all answer here, but there's a lot of good examples from many organizations and from different industries who have done this. You may have value streams if you're in banking, for example, you may have a value stream for mortgage lending, and then another one for loans. If you're in for example, BMW have taken this approach, and they have value streams centered on different products. It really depends on the nature of your business. As a result of that, what we're essentially doing is, instead of forming project teams to deliver a particular scope, instead we're actually bringing the work to the people. So bringing the work to the people instead of people to the work. So we have this conveyor belt of value delivery. All the people we need are there, and we are taking that demand, putting it onto that conveyor belt of value delivery. And we then get the benefit of being able to dynamically adjust our budgets based on the data and the feedback we're getting from our customers and from the market. And finally, part of lean budgeting is this participatory budgeting. And that's what we use to determine the allocation of funds between different value streams. And just a reminder, I'll be doing a workshop on that tomorrow. So a summary now of the two different approaches. With the traditional budgets, we are setting those annually. With lean budgeting, we can actually adjust those budgets on a quarterly basis, or perhaps more common is to do that every 6 months. In the traditional approach, the way we deliver value to customers, everything's a project. Well, now we have continuous value delivery. We're funding at a value stream level. Big upfront planning, well, we're taking that away. It's foolish to do that in today's world. Instead, we're embracing change. We're being open and honest that we have uncertainty, and we're welcoming feedback as well. And traditionally we've used crystal ball measures, as I call them, crystal ball measures like ROI, in order to determine priorities. I call them crystal ball because we have no certainty, we have no guarantee we're going to get that return on investment. Instead, or in fact, traditionally, there's also HIPPO prioritization, the highest paid person's opinion. Instead, we're going to use participatory budgeting to reach that alignment in terms of priorities and what to fund. Any changes in the traditional approach will often lead to delays, project change requests, and the pain we often go through in trying to get those signed off. Instead, we don't have budget surprises because this is a capacity-based model. And finally, we have much lower levels, lower overhead, and we have higher throughput as a result. Now, you might be thinking, well, we've been doing this for decades. Well, it's hard to change. Well, actually, almost 100 years. James Oscar McKinsey wrote a book in 1922 called Budgetary Control. And then his work was picked up by DuPont and General Motors and a few other companies. And that's really when the traditional approach to budgeting really kicked off. He then later went on to found one of the most successful management consultancies in the world. There you go. But look, just because we've been doing it for a long time, you know, often the principle will remain the same, but the practice will evolve. So the goal here is clean clothes. The practice has evolved. Healing patients, our goal remains the same. The practice evolves. No one uses a horse and cart anymore. We have much more efficient ways of getting between cities. And it's the same when it comes to fiscal governance. You know, we can avoid all of that pain on the left and the stress that causes by adopting a lean budgeting approach, organizing people into value streams, long-lived value streams, and there you go. Principle remains the same. The practice has evolved. 2 books I wanted to quickly call out. Implementing Beyond Budgeting, fantastic if you want to have more information on that side. And Project to Product by Mick Kirsten talks a lot more about the value stream networks. Really excellent books. And finally, if you want to get in touch, please do. My name is obviously Sukie Kang. There's my Twitter and my personal website. I do a lot of work through RadTech, who are one of the conference sponsors, and their website address is there. And thank you very much. Hope you have a great conference. Bye.